Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Monday. It's the start of another week. I hope you're doing well. Wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world, I say it's the start of another week. It's the start of a big week. It is the start of a Champions League week. It's been a fair while since we've been able to say that, but the Champions League returns. Arsenal in action tomorrow, of course, in Spain over in Bilbao against Athletic Club. Mikel Arteta will be holding a press conference over in Spain a little bit later on today, and we'll find out what he's got to say. There is also an open training session that'll be kicking off very, very soon at London Colney, so we might get a little bit of an insight into who, I was going to say could be there, but probably more importantly, who might not be there. Will William Saliba be training? Fingers crossed, hopefully he will. Certainly trained at the end of last week, so you expect he will be training today. Martin Odegaard, is he going to be back? You would imagine probably not, but who knows? Things will become clear. Not in the not too distant future. So we're going to talk about that game against Bilbao a little bit in this show. We're going to look at this. I think certainly Saliba is going to be an interesting one. If, as expected, he is training today and he does travel with the squad to Spain, it's going to be really interesting in terms of what Mikel does with William Saliba and the decision he takes for the Champions League game with that match against Manchester City looming large. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about what happened in football yesterday. Obviously, big day in the Premier League, wins for Liverpool and Manchester City, two very different wins. We'll talk about that and the impact that's had on the early stages of the Premier League table. Got some questions, some comments from you guys. We'll look at what Viktor Gyokeres has been saying after his goal scoring exploits at the weekend in the win as well. So let's get stuck into it, shall we? And we'll start with William Saliba. And I just think it's a really interesting discussion point because Mosquera's been so good since he's come in. He was excellent at the weekend, of course he was, but this is William Saliba we're talking about. So obviously he's going to come back into the team at some point. But it's like, do you start him tomorrow if he's fit? Or do you have that game against Manchester City in your mind when it comes to choosing the team for tomorrow? We know Saliba and Gabriel, that partnership against Erling Haaland, who scored another 2 goals yesterday. He's had a brilliant start to the season. He scored 5 goals for Norway last week. You want Saliba and Gabriel to be together playing that game against Man City next weekend. No doubt about it. As good as Christian Mosquera has been, you want Saliba and Gabriel together for that game against City. So what do you do tomorrow? Do you go with Christian Mosquera against Athletic Club? But remember, this is the first game of the Champions League phase. You need to get off to a good start, no doubt about that as well. Or do you bring Saliba back into the team? That's the big question, I think. When you look at the team selection sort of questions that Mikel's got, and we'll probably get a little bit later on today in the press conference, I do think what you do at centre-back's probably the biggest one now, especially if Odegaard, if there's no if there's no doubt about what's going to happen with Odegaard, if he's just out, then I'd say it's a pretty easy decision in terms of what he's going to do in midfield. But I think at centre-back, that's the one question mark really hanging over it. I would go with Saliba, I have to say, as long as he's fit. And I know Mosquera's been great, and thought he was fantastic at the weekend, and he's going back to Spain. He's playing a Bilbao side that he'll know all about. He won't have any issues playing against them. But I just think the first game of the Champions League phase is so important. You've got to get it right. You don't want to get to a bad start and suddenly be left chasing your tail early on in this league phase. You want to get to a good start. You want to win tomorrow, get 3 points on the board away from home, then come back for the home game against Olympiacos, already in a really, really strong position. So I'd be going Saliba. If there's no doubt about his injury, if he's fine, which Mikel seemed to suggest last week that he was fine in training, and it was the only reason he didn't play him was because he thought, well, we've got some big games coming up, so we'll give him a little bit extra rest. So if he's absolutely fine, I'd be playing Saliba in this game. I have to say, I wouldn't be worried about resting him for Man City. I think you've got plenty of time. It's Tuesday to Sunday. It's not a big journey. I think there's plenty of time. So I'd be going Saliba, Gabriel at centre-back. But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. What would you be doing? Do you agree with me? Do you think Saliba comes in for this and go as strong as you possibly can for the first Champions League game? Or would you be taking the Man City game into account and giving him a rest and just sticking with that centre-back partnership of Gabriel and Mosquera that played so well at the weekend? Comfortable clean sheet, pretty much a comfortable clean sheet, albeit against the Nottingham Forest side who offered very, very little. So I think that's probably the big talking point when it comes to the team selection. But Nicky's got in touch here on the Discord. Says, hi, Charles, on to the Champions League game. Assuming Odegaard can't play, would you start Nwaneri centrally and Eze on the wing, or would you start Eze in the middle and Trossard Martinelli on the wing? I'd be starting Nwaneri centrally, and I'd be playing Eze on the wing for me in this one. I just think Ethan has done enough to start this game on Tuesday night. I think he played really, really well when he came on. Maybe not really, really well, but he played well when he came on. I thought he looked mature in that position. And I think he's done enough to keep his place in the team. And I think you just play Eze on the left-hand side, just like you did at the weekend, and you just stick with that. I like the idea of Eze playing more centrally. We know he likes to play in that role, but I think the more you play him on the left wing in this Arsenal team, especially early on as he's adjusting to life over here, the better, because that is going to be his main position in this side. So I don't think you need to chop and change him all the time. So I'd play Eze on the left. And I just think, as I said, I think Ethan's deserved his spot. And I think that, the whole reason, when he signed his new contract, Arsenal said to him, look, you're going to be playing more centrally. You are going to be Odegaard's replacement. So when Odegaard's out, you should be playing him in that position. That's why you kept him. That's why you gave him this new contract. You rewarded him. And this is where you see his place in the team being in terms of the long term. So I think if Odegaard is out, this is exactly what he's here for. So you play him, in my view. And there was lots of good bits. I watched Ethan's a big sort of compilation of Ethan after the game at the weekend. And so there's loads of bits in there at the time when you're watching the game you didn't really pick up on. But when you watch it back and you look at what he was doing, he really did play with a real maturity in that position, I think, which was a really promising thing. And there was really good signs in terms of him playing there. So I just think keep doing it. I'd play him against Man City as well. If Odegaard's not fit, I'd be playing Ethan. I wouldn't be going the Marino, Rice, Zubimendi route that we saw at Anfield, especially at home. I'd absolutely be playing Ethan in that position. So let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Or let me know your thoughts on the answer to Nikki's question in the comments below. Right, let's talk about Viktor Gyokeres. Obviously scored his third goal in 4 games against Nottingham Forest at the weekend in that win, the 3-0 win. Scored the second goal, really crucial goal as well early in the second half, which is what you want from the striker. Get those really decisive goals in games. And he did that. It was a type of goal Arsenal didn't score very much last season. And he was just in the right position to turn home that as a cross. And it was brilliant. It just broke the game open. Then the nerves weren't really there. It was a 2-goal advantage. It's exactly what he's been bought for. And he's been speaking about his sort of start to life at Arsenal. He was speaking with the people down in the mix zone. Tom Canton was there. I think Nick Kello from Haters was there as well. And he was asked about the Premier League and how it's gone. And was he surprised? He was like, I'm not really too surprised at how tough it is. It's just a tough league. It absolutely is. But I thought more importantly, he was asked about what it was like sort of playing with the new attackers that he's playing with at Arsenal. And he said, look, if I get in the positions, I'll score goals because they're going to find me. And, that's exactly the thing that what I was talking about in yesterday's show in terms of Gyokeres and why I didn't really care too much about the discourse of what he looks like, how he plays, how clunky at times he can look on the pitch, the way he's playing, because I just don't care about that. I just care about him sticking the ball in the net. And he did some really good stuff as well in the game against Nottingham Forest. The little flick in the first half that sent, I think it was Eze away down the left, wasn't it? There was a really nice little flick that he did there first time. So he's got that on him. The little link-up play he did with Madueke that led to the shot that it hit the post. That's really good centre forwards play as well. So it wasn't just about sticking the ball in the net. There was good signs from him as well. Yes, there are other times when the ball bounced off him and his touch wasn't great and all that. But still, he just has to be in the right positions to score these sort of goals, especially in these sort of games where we know Arsenal have struggled at the past and they haven't been able to kill teams off. When you've got an absolute gunman in your team like Gyokeres is, that's the most important thing. So I thought it was really interesting when he was talking about that. It's like, look, I know how good these players are. If I get myself in the right positions, I'm going to score goals. And he absolutely will. 3 and 4. 3 and 4 in 4 games already in the Premier League. 3 goals in 2 games at home. You can't complain. You absolutely can't complain about that at all. I had some, before I get onto those, I had some questions here comments on Gyokeres. Carlo says, so happy to finally have an out-and-out goal scorer. So many times balls are played across the box and nobody is there to score them. Gyokeres may not be the easiest on the eye, but if he scores 20 plus goals this season, I don't care if they're all tap-ins. We go on to win the title, then it'll be wonderful. Connie says, Gyokeres still feels rusty and not quite fit. With that being said, I really do not care if he has the first touch of a freight train. If he continues to score goals, then we are on to a winner. Even if he only scores against the bottom 12 teams, those are the teams we're not normally able to break down and score itself. So that'll self be a game changer for us. And Simon says, I think Eze will adapt to Gyokeres quicker than the other lads because he's had similar at Palace. Quick and early will suit him. And that's not been our style in the last few years. I thought that was a really good point. We've spoken about that before, the whole Eze Mateta link up at Palace and how good that was. And that really could be beneficial for Arsenal in that sort of that kind of understanding. Mateta and Gyokeres, I suppose you look at them, they can be a little bit similar in a way in terms of how they play. And we saw with the Eze assist for Gyokeres. It was just quick. There was no thought about taking a touch or anything like that. It was just like, right, my striker, my big number 9, he's in the penalty area. I'm getting the ball across straight away to him so that he can score. And he did that so many times last season for Crystal Palace, and hopefully that'll be a link up that works really, really well, as Simon says. So I agree with all these comments here. I'm really excited about what Gyokeres is going to bring to Arsenal. Do I think he's the best player in the world, best footballer in the world? I don't know, but I don't care. I think he's a really good striker, and I think he's going to score an absolute bucket load of goals for Arsenal. And that is absolutely the most important thing. So long may that continue. Go over and I retweeted it earlier on today. Tom Canton, Football London, obviously the Gooner Talk, he retweeted the interview. Sorry, he put out the interview that he did in the Mix Zone with Viktor Gyokeres. I did retweet it, so you can find that on the timeline today if you want to go and have a look at what Victor had to say. 2 very different games in the Premier League yesterday. Liverpool, I don't know how to really talk about this. It was frustrating from an Arsenal point of view because you're just watching for so long. It's 0-0, 0-0, but it just kind of felt inevitable. 4 games they've played this season. They've won all 4 of them in the last 7 minutes, or, some closer to full time than that. Yesterday, the 95th minute. Newcastle was the 99th minute, wasn't it? Arsenal was 83. I think it was 88 against Bournemouth on the opening weekend. You can call it lucky, you can call it what you want, but league table is just a league table. It doesn't have a bracket of when you've won the games, and Liverpool have got four wins from 4 and are sitting top of the table with 12 points. So you can call it lucky. Maybe it is, but it's also what good teams do. I know that's cliche, but it's true. Ultimately, you find a way to win, and they're finding a way to win when they're not playing well at the moment. They were very, very lucky yesterday. I don't know what Hannibal was doing, what he was thinking with that. It was just ridiculous to give away a handball, but Salah still had to score the penalty, and he absolutely did that. So that was frustrating for Arsenal because for so long you kind of felt, they're going to drop points. But I think deep down we all kind of felt there was a goal. There was a goal kind of come at some point. Man City brushed away Manchester United. I don't know what's more to say about Amorim, to be honest. I don't get how he's escaping the criticism that he should be. Can you imagine if Arteta had the record that Amorim had? Could you imagine what Neville, Carragher, Scholes, everyone would be saying about him? I don't know how he's avoiding the real question marks. It all seems to be focused on the club and the Glazers and stuff. It's like, there's still the manager here. He's won 8 games, 8 league games in 31 since he's taken over. It's an unbelievably bad record. No team in the Premier League has got a worse record since he took over. Current team in the Premier League got a worse team. They're bottom of the lot. It's just mad to me how he's seen. I don't care really, and I hope, given what we're seeing so far from him and the way he's setting his teams up, I hope long may it continue. I hope he stays in the job as long as possible, to be honest. But I just find it really, really mad that he seems to be escaping the sort of scrutiny. Arsenal lose 1 game and it's the end of the world. And Arteta is doing things all wrong. Man United lose game after game after game after game. And it always seems to be about, the club's a mess. The recruitment's a mess. The Glazers are a mess. Never seems to be Amorim. I don't understand it. But anyway, like I said, I don't really care. But yeah, Man City warmed up for their game against Arsenal next weekend with a good, convincing 3-0 win. Another couple of games for goals for Erling Haaland. Haaland captain, whoever captained him in their FPL team, will be feeling very good about themselves this morning. I didn't. I do have him in my team. I didn't captain him. I captained Salah, though, so I did at least get some points. And some as frustrated as I'm feeling as Liverpool getting that late win, at least did get a bit of reward for my FPL team. Anyway, so there's the league table. If you're watching on YouTube, in the centre there, Liverpool sitting top at the moment with 12 points. Arsenal second with 9, level with that lot down the road, also on 9 points. Chelsea obviously dropping points in their game against Brentford at the weekend, are 5th now in the league. So all very, very tight. Big game for Arsenal, of course, against Man City next weekend. Need to win that. Absolutely need to win that to keep the pressure up on Liverpool, because you've got to think Liverpool, they're only going to get better. They're not going to get any worse in the way they're playing at the moment, no doubt about that. The more that as soon as Isak gets into the team, starts to settle in, they're going to get better, no doubt about it. So Arsenal need to keep pace with them at the moment. Right, let's move on to a couple more comments then before we wrap this one up today. Jelly Belly says, I want to play devil's advocate for a second. While I agree with almost everything you said about Madueke, he put in a wonderful performance, but I have to call out the point about Saka. I've seen so much absolute crap on socials about Saka not getting back into the team. People even saying Arsenal will need to move Saka to the left in order to play Madueke. Once again, Noni was great, but here's the fact: 0 goals, 0 assists in 4 games for Arsenal. Saka has been out 2 games, already has more output than Noni. We need to relax on the Madueke out. Look, I am certainly not someone who would be saying, "Oh, Madueke starts ahead of Saka." Of course not. As soon as Saka's fit, he's back in this team. Absolutely, he is Arsenal's difference maker. He is the go. He in the big games, in the go-to moments, Bukayo Saka will deliver. He will score a goal. He will set you up a goal. So I'm certainly not on sitting here saying, "Oh, Madueke goes back into the team when Saka's fit." Absolutely not. But I'm just delighted to have a player who seems to be really settling in quickly, who seems to have loads of attributes that we need to make a difference in the side and in the squad. But yeah, and that you can rotate with Saka and be able to rest Saka and still have a real threat on the right-hand side, which we haven't been able to say for a long, long time. So that's brilliant. But yeah, I'm absolutely not sitting here saying, "Oh, he's going to move Saka out of the team," or that, like you said, the ridiculous stuff of, "I'll move Saka over to the left." Of course, you're not going to move him over to the left. It's not going to happen. He's going to stay on the right. It's Bukayo Saka we're talking about here. Last season, if he hadn't got the injury, he'd have been about, how many assists? Probably in the 20s. Was really threatening to break the assist record in the Premier League before the injury. Scores loads of goals. Of course, Saka plays. But it's still really, really good to have the Madueke option now and be able to not heap a load of pressure on Saka in terms of how quickly he has to get back and all that sort of stuff. And it is the one thing, the Madueke still needs to learn. No doubt about that. Is end product. As good as you can play, as exciting as you can be, you still got to finish with goals and assists. That's what you're in the team to do as well. Saka does it, and he does it so regularly. That's why he'll always be in the team if he's fit, pretty much. But it's still good to have Madueke here. But thank you very much for your point there, Jelly Belly. I agree with you 100%. David says, "Charles, any progress with YouTube, Google?" No, unfortunately not, David. As you see in these videos, there's still no adverts, still not able to monetize the channel, which is horrible and scary. I'm trying not to think about it too much at the moment. I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks we might be able to see some sort of progress on it. If not, then I genuinely will be pretty terrified. But again, I'm trying to think best case scenario at the moment. But thank you very much for asking, David. And again, if anyone wants to come up during this time and join Patreon, even if it's just for the time while I'm still struggling with this YouTube Google thing and want to support the channel, that'd be absolutely fantastic. You can become a member of Inside Arsenal Patreon, get all these shows and exclusive extra content as well. The description is down below. Sorry, the link is down below in the description. Just copy and paste that into your browser and go over to patreon.com. Do it direct via Patreon, though. Don't do it through Apple or anything like that, where they add their little surge charges. Do it direct through Patreon if you can. And you do that, and you can support the channel during this time, then that'll be absolutely great. And hopefully, in the not too distant future, I will be able to monetize this channel again. And we can get back to normal. That would be absolutely fantastic. But anyway, back to David's question. Says, "I'm a bit concerned with how the season will progress for Arteta. He got just about all he wanted in the summer. He's aware the pressure will increase on him now. I think we've already seen a bit of what we can expect going forward. Every game that doesn't result in 3 points, he's going to come under pressure and scrutiny when it comes to team selection. There were surprises in the lineup at the weekend. Marino for Rice. We loved the call because we got 3 points. However, that would have been criticised to the max if we didn't come away with 3 points. I don't think it should be the case, but it seems like it really will evolve into a Premier League or Champions League title or bust for him, or at least he'll be heavily in the hot seat." Well, he will. There's no doubt about it. He will. He knows that as well. You talk to him about it. You ask him about it in press conference. He's very, very aware of the sort of narrative behind him this season and what Arsenal need to do this season. It just comes with the job. It comes with being in the hot seat at Arsenal, to be honest. Is it fair? What I don't think is fair is the rubbish of, he's got no excuse this season. It doesn't make any sense to me. Arsenal were the second best team by a mile last season. Liverpool were way ahead, and Liverpool have strengthened and spent more money than Arsenal this summer. So how you could possibly say Arsenal got no excuse this summer, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, well, have you forgotten about Liverpool, who were the best team in England last season by a mile and have spent more money than Arsenal this summer? So of course there's not an excuse, there's just a reason. So I never buy into that. But apart from that, there's obviously pressure on him. He's gone a long time without winning a trophy. This is Arsenal. We're a very big team. We need to win trophies. It's what we're about. And we've spent a lot of money to try and do that. So he'll know the pressure he's under. I don't think it'll faze him. But we are just going to have to get used to the narrative every time there are points drops. And that's going to happen quite a lot this season because the league is very, very strong. But yeah, thank you very much for your point, David. Appreciate it as always. And that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching and for listening, and appreciate it as always. I'll be back tomorrow, match day, of course, in the morning. We're doing predicted 11s, all those sort of things. Tell me your 11 you want to see tomorrow. Put them down in the comments and I'll bring some of them together and get them included in tomorrow's show. Until then, have a good one, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.